Hi, welcome to the garden. And today we have another guest, the man who needs no introduction, Danny Shay, BathRobe to row, who showed up in a shirt just for the occasion, all dressed up, ready to go.
I did.
You did.
I normally don't go to other people's gardens.
That's yeah, it's and it's a lovely day in the garden. It's already 70 degrees here.
Right.
We're going to look at past lives because Danny started reading past lives and I saw it and wrote him a note and said that was really interesting and good. And so we got to talking, and I've been reading past lives for over 30 years. So I do it a very different style than he does. But we're going to talk about the different ways to use past lives and what kind of goes on to it. And since I am the rock lady, we're talking about these stones. These are past life stones. This is petrified wood. And you can see the grain of the wood, but that's a rock where the minerals replace the wood. The other ancestor stones are amber, which it was sap on a pine tree millions and millions of years ago and sunk in the world and got heat and pressure and stuff, turned into a stone. This one's real pretty. It's actually got inclusions in it. They're not insects, but they're like little bits of leaves and stuff. This particular amber came from the Baltic Sea. And this came up last time I did it. And I told Danny, I don't know if I'm going to include it, but because it's Danny and it's a guy to thing, this is coprolite is what it's called. And it means copra for dung and light for hard or stone in Greek. And it's dinosaur dung turned into a rock. And it was the first ones that were discovered and really worked on was in 1829. And they actually take these little guys apart and they can tell what kind of seeds they are. So they know, or bones or whatever the animal is eating. So anyway, somebody said, would you put that on someone's grid? And I said, you know what that says on the grid? S on you. I don't think so. So we're going to go now to the adult portion.
I'm so honored that you thought of me when you pulled out the dinosaur poop.
I'm going to go to the adult portion of this presentation. Danny can talk about his kind of what got him into past lives and maybe do a quick one and show you what he does.
Sure. So I wasn't really interested in past lives when it just sort of recently came into my vision. And because I just thought, just work on this life. You don't need to work on your past lives. But where the energy that I'm getting from past lives is where we can heal. And what we're bringing from our ancestral place, our past lives, that we're bringing along with us. And some of the things we need to work on and enhance, and other things I think we need to let go of and not pay that much attention to, and actually cut them away from ourselves. We've already had that energy. We've already dealt with it. And if we haven't, let's cut it and deal with it now and let it go so that we can be a better version as we go forward. So my intent with doing past lives is to see what we're still hanging on to, what we need to release, what we need to embrace. And so this is a new thing for me. This is new energy for me. And it's interesting when Nancy Jean, when you emailed me and we started talking, and I found out that you're just as new at this as I am, maybe a little longer that you've been doing it, yet that much longer. And so I thought, I think this is going to be really fun because you've been doing this for 30 years. Is that what you said?
30 to 40, yeah.
30 to 40 years doing past live readings.
Right. I started looking at it when I was studying astrology.
Yeah. And so it's, we get to see two different ways of doing this. One, 30 to 40 years experience, and my way, just getting into the way that I'm reading and picking up on the energy.
Right.
And so there's, and there's nothing wrong. I mean, I'm one of the guys that feels that they have to study things to death before I, can get a handle on it. And with this spiritual aspect, I've come to the realization, and it's a conscious decision, that I don't have to study it to death, even though my brain goes, you need to read more, you need to do this, you don't need to. You already have that information in you.
Mhm.
You just have to access it. And so it's going to be fun reading and
Yeah.
doing past lives with you.
It's hard to push the analytical mind out of the way.
Yes,
It's hard to say, guess what? I really do know you were alive in the 1600s and this is where you lived.
Right.
But what's going to happen, Danny, as you do it more, you're going to have more people say, I always wondered why I felt like that. There was no rational reason in this life for me to feel that way. Why do I feel that way? And then that gives them permission. The other thing is, I read a woman's past lives at Dolly's one day, and she had been brilliant in her past life. And she was absolutely brilliant in this life. And that was one of the reasons she came into this life, was to teach other people how to unwind and how to let their brilliance show through. So the past lives are not just a condemnation of everything you ever did wrong, although it can be.
Yeah, it can be.
But anyway, go ahead. You want to show your technique or how you want to lay it out, or what you've been.
Well, and normally when when I'm doing a past life, I'll do it. It kind of builds on one thing to another. So, I just start like with a 3-card spread, and it'll be what you need to embrace, release, and then what is the message that spirit wants you to hear from that.
Right.
And from there, you can, then go into with what do you need to release? Well, where did that come from? And you can go back into, well, let's find out, if you are, you can dig a little deeper into it. And I use the pendulum a lot to, if we want to get into, like what you were saying, you do, right, the first thing you do is gauge the sex with the pendulum. And so I can do that with the pendulum, and it just gives me a clearer yes, no answer on time, sex. And, if I use the cards to come up with some kind of who you were in the past, if you're what kind of job you had in the past, I can clarify it with the pendulum, so you get an idea. And then I also think too that after the reading, it then goes on to the person doing research in that time,
right?
Jumping on Google and on the internet and doing their own research and coming up with their own hits, and go, oh yeah, that feels so comfortable to me. And why does it feel so comfortable to you? Well, that's probably because that's where that past life was tapping into.
Yeah. I had a client once, and I saw her past life, and she was an elegant lady, but wherever she was, it was cold. And I could see the dress she was in. I was just getting an impression of it. It was very medieval, very regal. And she was a very regal looking woman anyway. And so she also meditated a lot. And she said, well, how can I do more? And I said, meditate on it. So she meditated to see. She also had a history in costumes, and that's what she'd done, costume design. So I said, if it's the Middle Ages, if you can see his helmet, you can figure it out, because all the different ages had, the helmets were very different, and they also were different from the country. So she meditated, and she saw this guy's face with the helmet on it, and she knew she could find it. She found the helmet. Not only did she find the helmet, she found the guy's face. Not only that, she found a picture, a drawing of what she looked like at the time. She was his lady, and she helped. Her husband was a Viking warrior king who went off, and she actually showed me the picture. She said, this is exactly the face in the helmet I saw. And then when you looked at the picture she'd found of herself, it was almost looked like her now.
Wow. Wow.
And
that's just,
and she said, and it ended up, she was a very kind woman. She ran the country well while he was gone, which is for all those things who thinks women lived in a top of a tower somewhere. No, they didn't. They ran the castle. And she ran a very fair castle. And one of her daughters ended up being the Queen of Denmark.
oh,
So she did a whole lot. And, so I'm not guaranteeing anybody I do a past life for is going to find them, because most past lives are, Indian peasant boys who took care of cows. But, and you're not going to find your picture anywhere.
well, maybe in some, like petrified dung.
Yeah, well, that would be true. I don't think it's had time to petrify. Give it up, Danny. Anyway, do you want to read me? Do you want to read one of my past lives?
Oh, okay.
I'm not at all. When I teach tarot, that's one of the classes I have is reading past lives. And my students are fine till they have to read mine, and they all think I'm going to be sunshine and roses. Boy, do they get the truth.
All right. Well, let's see where we go with this. Nancy Jean and her past lives. So we're going to go with the 3-card spread like I do to begin with. And this is in the past life, what you're bringing towards you in this life, what you need to embrace, what you need to let go of. This popped out. And the first card is the Son of Cups, what you need to embrace. And this is interesting for me saying this to you, is that your energy that you're bringing forth in this Son of Cups, it's a younger energy, and it's a younger light and information that you're bringing. So here I'm thinking that you are this wise old soul that's bringing forth information, but you got a long way to go. Not so much. It's got, you have so much more to give, and there's so much more coming your way. So you're not at the end of your life stream or whatever. You're still young, even though I feel you're an old soul, but the information that you're giving out, you're still, it's still evolving and coming and growing and just bursting out of this cup. But it's kind of a younger, I'm not sure I'm saying that right. But anyway, let's keep going. What you should let go of. What is the energy that you should let go of from past lives? The energy that you should let go of, and this is the 6 of Cups. And when I look at this card, the roots on this card strike me so much. And the 6 of Cups is going back to a simpler times. And the roots, some of your ancestral past lives need to be, you need to let those go. It's almost like a soul retrieval type thing. Some of those things aren't serving you well, and maybe holding you back. And so I'm going to pull some more on that just to see what that is as far as your ancestral, what needs to be cut there, what energies need to be cut. But what is spirit have to say. Let me switch decks. What is the final spirit card for Nancy Jean? And so your final card, your spirit card, is answer the call. What is your soul calling you to do? And when I pulled this, I said, you're doing it. This is what you're doing from this cup, this information that you're giving out. You are doing it. You are answering the call. And I love this card because it's
beautiful.
It's almost like you're sitting in a crystal cave.
Yep.
With this.
I am sitting in a crystal cave.
You are. So let's dig into, let me dig into this six of cups a little bit. Talk to me more about Nancy Jean and what I was getting with this release. Talk to me about this release. What is this? And it tells me too, when I was shuffling on this, I mean, it tells me that your past lives are you've got a lot of them. So my struggle with this card, with the youngness of the information that the youngness in this card, it's contradicted in this card because you've got a lot of history behind you with a lot of lives behind you. So what you need to cut away, what I was talking here, there is a balance here that comes with walking away from some of the sorrow, some of the sadness. And you've got the karmic card as the last clarifier. And this is just seeing that, you know, it just, as you keep rolling through your lives, as it keeps spinning, you're going to cut more and more of the things that you don't want. Right. And so it's just a progression that you are working on, that you are coming to balance with. And you're going to stay in your crystal cave, shedding light and giving people information and light that they need so that they can grow. Very cool. And that's what I got from
I am actually, I know spiritually, I'm aging backwards. I'm opening aging backwards. I'm opening myself up to things that normally only younger people or newer people, you know, when you get into a thing, you read cards as long as I did. To break away and go into crystals, when I found them, I just dived over there and have spent 3 years in intense work in that, at a point when most people are, you know, continuing to knit blankets and do things that they've always done. Right. But it's like, I am like, my kids keep telling me I'm aging backwards. And it started with dyeing my hair purple, but.
Is your hair purple?
Yes. Is your hair gray?
It is.
Yes, it is.
No, I'm blonde. I'm blonde.
You're blonde. Okay. If you want to say so. Well,
and that's what I got with this then. It's that you're going backwards. I'm going into it.
I was told by Bob, who does shows on Andreas, the Akashic Records guy, that I was the person who wrote the book on how to heal with crystals in Atlantis. And that I've carried that forward. And he said, then you went through years of all the other spiritual paths. And he said, I'm just shocked that you're using crystals the way you are, because they use clear quartz. He said, I don't know a healer that uses colored rocks, but you do. And he said, and I know they work. He said, you know, because I can feel it when I look at the images. And he said, so you're bringing forth a whole new view on something that's been here before.
Wow. Yeah.
So you were right on. Very good. So now y'all know who to hit for a past life reading. Danny's got it down.
Yeah. Well, let's see what you got.
Okay, do you want me to do you? Some readers don't like to be read publicly. I don't blame them. I can just I can do a blank reading, which just says this is a reading for someone who's going to see the show, or I can do
You
you.
do a blank reading on me?
No,
No.
well, you're
No,
not.
no, you can't.
You're
Okay,
fine.
no, I'm good. You can
Okay.
read on me. I'm good.
Okay, we're going to start with, we're going down to my table. And for people who don't like that, too bad. I got to put the camera down somehow. And get my mouse out of the way. That'd be nice. Okay, I start with the pendulum. And this is my new pendulum that a lady made for me. It's got the dragonfly, which is the soul critter of my website. And she put the chakra stones on it. So, and for me, moving this way on the hand means that you were male. And moving this hand way on my hand means you're female. And we're gonna lift it up. And is this Danny's life male or female? Oh, you're definitely guy material. Okay. You're definitely a guy in this life. Now, the first reading I use 2 decks and I use them 2 different ways. This first reading I'm going to do is called, in some books, is called the Spirit 7. And it's a way, like, if you can do it, you can use it to look at someone and say, who is? There's a way to read it, to interpret that. But I found out years and years ago that it was great for doing past lives, because I get to see where you are in this life, where you are in the past life, what vibrations that brought in. And the 7th card in the middle tells me how far along you are in handling that life and understanding it. So, and I agree with Danny. I will tell you one thing, that the only thing I ever get worried about doing past lives for people is some people grab onto vibrations and energies from a past life as a reason to not move forward, like they hold on to that old ex. You know, if it weren't for my ex, if it weren't for that past life where I was beaten to death in the Middle Ages, I'd be fine.
Right.
No, you have to let that one go.
Yeah.
Just try not to get beaten to death again. Anyway, so we're going to do Danny's Spirit 7. They get to see me do all the dealing and everything. Oh my God.
Ooh.
Oh, ho, ho.
Ooh.
Hey, you were in prison. These 3 cards, the top 2 and this one on the bottom point, are, this is the past life. This is your current life. And boy, and you are putting it together. You are really, really far along. Okay, in this past life, you ended up being imprisoned. And you were imprisoned. You were a wizard or a witch, but you got imprisoned because of your spiritual values. And they were discordant, and you were a powerful person.
Not powerful enough to stay out of jail.
Well, no. One of my past lives, I was in Spain, and I had helped the Spanish king and the inquisitors in finding people. And then at the end, they came for me because they started torturing witches.
Oh. So
that can happen. So you used your power for them. They betrayed you totally. So when you came into this life, you said, I don't like that. I'm going to make a big change. This card is death in a traditional deck. That's why I use this deck, because it's called transition, which is actually what death means in the deck.
Right.
And also, when you're reading in a wine bar, this is a much better card to put in front of someone who's had a couple glasses of wine than death. There's method to this madness. Yes. You kept your light under the bushel for a long time. Mm-hmm. You hid who you were, but now you're coming out. But you're not. I don't think you're coming out like what they're thinking. The Queen of Pentacles to me is a power master of values, and you are helping to spread those feminine receptive values as opposed to aggressive male values. That's how I read queens. So okay. And you're getting it together in this life, boy. You meeting all the right people, you moving in all the right directions. I'm never sure if this guy's up at sunrise or sunset. So I get a feeling you're just at the sunrise of where you're going with all this stuff. So this is what I see is you were a guy, you were a wizardy sort of person, you worked for someone and they betrayed you, and you came in this life very Your soul stood on the other side and said, I'm bringing my power in, and this time I'm not going to get betrayed. This time people are going to understand what I do, and it's going to be to the benefit of all. So now these cards are the ones we're looking at, that Queen of Pentacles and the Magician life. That's where we're going.
Okay. And don't forget, I'm meeting all the right people, Nancy Jean.
Yes, you are. I definitely, I wouldn't be talking to you if you weren't. I don't know. Also, truth in advertising. Danny looks just like my old high school boyfriend. The drummer in the band.
And I may be, except I didn't
No,
play the drums.
no, I know where he is, and he's alive and well in Vegas. But okay, so this is your baseline. Oh, and I'll explain what these cards mean. You read these. I don't know how you read 4x4s, Danny, but I read them across and then down, so you get 16
right.
different. Okay, so this card's the base. This is what you did to help things. This is the one thing that you should have avoided. And this is the next move. And then the next line is about the next move. So
right.
You had everything, man. You had the 6 of discs. You had all people were generous to you and whatever. And you were very bold and went out and said your piece and said your thing. But you got swayed into money. You started selling out what you were doing for money. And that's where things went wrong.
Uh-oh.
You ended up taking this offer, and it was a poisoned offer.
Oh.
So what happens when you take the poisoned offer?
Yeah.
Oh, you were in China, by the way.
Oh.
I just picked that up. Not that this card normally means China, but I just saw this. This was how you were dressed. You were in the court of China, and you were bases. They had very strict rules and a hierarchy you didn't go outside of. And remember who you were? The magician. And you let them see your power, and you let your secret power out, that you were psychic, that the secrets that were hidden were not hidden from you. And you fled. I got on your tail. So you left it all behind. Now let's see what happens when you do the 8 of Cups thing. Oh dear, what a mixed bag. Okay, you fled to a place that you thought was safe.
Yeah.
Okay. And it turned out to be just kind of what you thought you were going to get. Everything was rolling right along. And then what happened? You started deluding yourself again about what you could grab and get. And so they found you, and they came and got you. Isn't that a nasty 9 of Swords?
Yeah. When am I going to learn, Nancy?
I know. Well, this one you're learning. You're doing right. Okay.
All right.
So 9 of Swords. What happens from the anxiety of the 9 of Swords? Okay. You lost everything, all of the comforting things that you've built up. Remember, you're the Queen of Discs this time.
Yeah.
Queen of Pentacles, this affirmation. You had that, but you didn't know when to let go. I love this 4 of coins. If you look at this guy, he's got 4 coins, and there's a key at the bottom of the door, and it's locked. The only way he can move forward is to give up control. I love that card.
That's great.
That's what you couldn't do. So they chopped off your head.
Oh, dang it. I hate it when that happens.
I know, it's such a nasty thing, but you left, you didn't, it shows that you were stuck. You wouldn't let go of your power. And so you paid the price, but when you went across, you ended up in a better world where people said what you did was right. So we're going to look at this. Base was, you came to give and share. You were in a very hierarchical world. You met your goals, and you did what you're supposed to do. In other words, you were true to yourself, but you paid the price. But you were really arrogant about doing this, and you were the magician, and as above so below, but you used your power And when you used it, it could end up being really, really good. And when you abused your power, you stuck yourself in a corner and you didn't know when to let go and pick up the key and run.
Mm.
You had greed was part of this. You didn't look beyond this is a high priestess. You didn't look beyond the promises you made to people. And you were terribly confused up to the minute they cut your head off. And notice she's only got a head.
Yeah.
Up to the minute they cut your head off, you were illusion and delusion. You kept thinking, I'm going to get my way out of this. And then they showed up. But the conclusion of what Tarot's lesson is you don't always grab the easy cup. Running away won't help. Anxiety does you no good. Facing your fate is what makes you whole. So you're doing it. So you're doing it. But you're in China. You were in China, but you were too close to the throne.
And they cut my head off.
And they cut your head off. I mean, really, all that beautiful hair just floating around somewhere without a head to be attached to. Woo.
Well, I hope they used it for something.
I don't know. I could lay cards on that. I'm not sure the answer I'd get.
Yeah. No, and that's awesome. I love that reading. I love the spread on that because it just digs in a lot deeper than, and it gives a little more method to it gives a method and a structure to like what I do is kind of free flowing,
right?
And so I think in the future for me, I'm gonna like combine both of those in a way that is a little free form because I like that, and adding a little more structure to my future readings on that.
Right, because when I devised this, and I did this during the COVID time because I couldn't have a chance. It's hard when you're not sitting face to face with someone. I don't know what your experience is with reading people, Danny, but I was a table reader, so I had their real presence. When I do a reading, I do a 3-card reading before I even open up the camera to start the Zoom meeting, and then I read that to them. I say, "Don't tell me anything. Don't tell me why you're here. I don't want to know." I'm going to read those 3 cards, past, present, future. And I said, does that kind of capsulize where you are? Because then I know I have their energy. If you're energetically in the same space with someone, it's much easier.
Right.
And so I developed the further reading because there was so much I would get off them, because you'd almost see bits of the past soul coming through, giving me information when I'm physically with someone. When I couldn't be physically with them, I had to find another thing. And I was playing with ideas and I was practicing on friends of mine. I have some friends who I've read way too many times. And I came up with the 4x4. And I really like the 4x4. That's how I read that one. There's all sorts of different ways to read the 4x4.
Sure. Yeah. So what do you do when you pull the 3 cards and you don't connect with them energetically?
We look at why. Sometimes it's the next person I'm going to read. That's actually true. I've laid out, this is where you are today in the bar, and people go, that's not even anywhere near close to me. And then I'll realize there was someone standing and there was a door behind where my table was. And I picked up that energy. So I just, and I tell everybody, nothing's 100%. You just got the lesson in that. I do a longer 5-card where you are now. And usually that's close. Or in the case of someone I did yesterday, she said, that's not me, it's my daughter, but that's what I was calling you about.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's that. I'm not God, I don't know. Most times people say it's pretty spot on and they're kind of shocked, but no, sometimes it's just not. And that's okay. And I use Archangel Tarot and another Tarot when I do those, so they're all right side up, and they actually have the description of the card on the bottom. That's a Radley Valentine deck, and his descriptions are usually spot on. And I can tell people, I'm reading this card, I'm not making this up. This is correct the card we pulled here. So
and I find too, when people say that's not me, you're not tapping in, a lot of times it's something that they're just not looking at for themselves. They don't want to see that. So,
I can ask, is it true? And now you guys don't know this, but when I'm sitting here talking to people, I'm sitting here laying out cards. Are they telling me the truth? So, because sometimes not everyone is as good with the truth
yeah,
as we might hope.
yeah.
Okay. So that's sort of past life stuff. The other thing I tell you about past lives is don't get hung up on them. That's really true. I've had people do that, and it's a danger. When you read people and they want to find another excuse other than it's their problem. I always approach people with, this is your reading. It is about you. I won't do past lives on people who are not present. I won't. I one time had a woman come up in the bar, and it's a wine bar. It was a very nice bar. But she came up and she goes, sat down. She said, when's my dirty rotten ex gonna get his? And I said, I can't read that for you. And she said, you can tell, you just told my friend all this stuff about her and her life. And I said, yeah, but I'll do that for your dirty rotten ex when he comes and asks me.
Right.
I'm not going to cosmically spy. I call that cosmic spying. And
it is.
I very much don't like to do. I won't do it. I mean, I used to years ago, but it's no fun.
No, and a lot of times, people will come up and ask the same thing. What about my ex or this? And I just don't read on third parties. They got to be present.
I'll read kids. I'll read children. And the only way I do it, the other thing is I try not to do questions. I try to do situations, and I'll do, is your child moving in a positive direction? And if they're not, I got the answer, but most of them are, but I try to do it that way. I really believe that when we mount something as a question, we've already written out a lot of scenarios that could be there. So like, am I going to buy a new house? Well, you've gotten rid of a whole lot of other scenarios. So I'll say to people, let's do the situation about my house.
Right.
About my living circumstances.
Yeah.
Well, you were in real estate, people never know what they're doing about houses anyway.
Sure.
But, so that they're not eliminating possibilities, because we self-limit so much.
Yeah.
We don't let the universe give us our highest and best.
Right. And a lot of times we'll want to just give away our power and have somebody tell us what to do, where we're going, instead of giving us the decision. We get to make our own decision. We are empowering ourselves. That's what I like with tarot, is we are empowering ourselves through the information that we're getting with the cards. That's the way I like looking at it.
My favorite thing about tarot is, and I said this because, is you can have this card or you can have this card. It's your choice. And it's so much easier to show that to someone. What if we turned this card? This means this here. It means this reversed. What if you change that piece? How do we go from there? How do we work with it? And I think that's a real positive way to try to work with people. Because, I don't let it, if I sense anyone's let me try to have me take over their life. I had a rule when I was out reading live, and I still have it. I don't take clients more than once every 3 months, unless they're getting a grid. And then they get the grid reading, and then they get the fire up meeting, but that's sort of the same thing.
Right.
But I don't read people more than once every 3 months, because the second they would show up. I've had to have people show up. They try to worm their way in every week. They bring 3 friends and want to sit at the table while you read them. Well, what about me? And, I don't do that, because Lord knows, if I actually sat and told you my whole life story, you'd probably turn your camera off and go run in the closet. I mean, and I think, but you got to understand, guys, for us to be good readers, we have to have gone through a lot of stuff so we can see it. And it's not an accident you find us when you want us to read you.
No, it is not.
So
it's not it is, we show up when it's time, but it's also people show up in your life. I mean, like you in this past life thing where, and one of the things that you said that was so spot on, was and it bears repeating, is that, you know, we hang on to the negative so much and we want that to be what we're dealing with when we should just let it go. In these past life readings, you know, we just focus too much on the
like the person who's beaten to death. Am I going to get beaten to death again? Well, it's the same thing.
Or get my head cut off again because I said something wrong.
No. Well, you didn't say something wrong. You told them the truth. Trust me, there have been periods of time in history when telling the truth was a dangerous game.
Yes.
You know, yes. And one of the reasons that astrologers became astronomers was because kings and people like that found out that they really could see what was coming. And if they didn't say what they wanted them to say, that could be a life-ending deal. And so a lot of astrologers became astronomers because then they could just say the star is there and kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, do this without being a predictive force.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that what we're seeing is what elements outside of you are predicting. Your self-will is inside of you. So what you make of it is what you make of it.
Right.
And one of the things I've talked a lot about on my channel, which is Nancy Jean's Garden. And one of the things I talk about there a lot is self-talk. That we, you know, I say things to me in my head that if anybody else walked up and said it, I'd slap them.
Right.
So, you know, you have to get past that. And I mean, the last few years, I've really gotten out of a lot of that negative self-talk. You know, don't write Danny Shay. He doesn't want to talk to you. You know, I mean, there was a period in my life when that's what I would have done. I would have shied away from extending myself. And I think that a lot of people I deal with are going through that. They're emerging. And they need to have someone pat them on the back and say, good job, you know, get out there and do it.
Right. You know, and I think, I feel a lot of people are emerging too with this. And we all have those doubts where, oh, well, you know, Nancy Jean, she's not going to want to talk to me. She reads past lives for 30 years. I'm just starting, but it's still the same. It's still the same journey as we go on with it. It's just a little different. That's all. So, but we in this YouTube community, I think more and more people are growing and coming out with this, and tapping into their intuition where they wouldn't allow themselves to do it. And to me, it's like this electricity, it's buzzing. And we've had the 4 years of this clamp down, and now we have to figure out how to let all that go, which is really hard, but just let it go and go to a higher level of consciousness versus dealing with politics and that lower level. And it's exciting that we're expanding our consciousness.
Well, the thing is, we've come out of a period of chaos and total disruption, and everybody kind of knowing this is all wrong, but what do we do with it? It's like a child in a household with totally dysfunctional parents. What do you do? I mean, you're stuck in that house. We were stuck in this nation, right? Except I'm not. My parents were Canadians. I could go become a Canadian tomorrow. But as Andrea says, come on up here and you'll never get out of your house again. You know, every place has its problems, but I always try, you know, I worked in politics and I saw even more. I mean, when I hear a story that's a political story, I hear even more of the undertow of what they're not telling you. And that's why I can't read political questions. If you ever come to my channel, do not ask me to read about politics, because baby, I don't do it.
So we're not going to read on like 45 or 46 Trump or
I would read on certain things. It's like, is this going to work? I think somebody asked me about would Biden come in with the scientific information prove true? Because, you know, scientific information is just kind of in some ways like us.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have the background that they've got, but but I saw very clearly, I saw shots just pouring out of the sky. Every time I'd read it, I'd get the Eight of Wands.
Yeah.
Them shots is coming.
Right. And it's important, I like that you're not reading that stuff, because there you can find political stuff
Everywhere.
and it's just got to switch. We have to switch it up. I have a hard time switching it up because I'm still invested in it and fascinated a little bit by it. And I wish I wasn't so, but
Your
I still
spirit,
am.
your
When
Spirit Sunday is a brilliant show. I don't know if people are watching it, but they should be, because, and it's a good thing to watch on a Sunday, because those of us who are raised in a traditional Christian valued church,
Yeah.
Sunday's the day to look at that stuff. But your Spirit's Sunday is brilliant. And one of the things that one of the readers said to me that does do politics is, how did you know that would help you build YouTube hours? For those who are not in the YouTube community, the more hours people watch, the more you get. So if you do a political story, it's like out there for a couple of days, and then who wants to go back and read what we already know is past? You can go back to my stuff from the middle of December, and every single one of them is a different kind of spiritual lesson about stones, about cards, and I just drag around in a norm. I just sit down and I go, okay, when I said I'm going to do a YouTube channel, I wrote out 100 topics in a day. I just sat there. Okay, I could write about this. I could talk about this. And I go through that list, and I'll say, oh, I haven't talked about that yet. So I'll pull that out.
Yeah, good. That's great. Yeah.
And, I think somebody said to me, I'm so glad I found you because you inspired me. Let me see if I can find, I'm not sure I can find it, but I had a woman who was inspired by my crystal grids. What she did is she made a Fibonacci, that's the inside of a shell, that movement in. She did it in a tree trunk with different stuff. It's absolutely magnificent. And she sent it to me last night. And I said, would you come on and do a side-by-side and explain what you see in this? Because it's such a powerful image. And so she's now debating it. She's kind of shy. But she said, I had to learn a bunch of new techniques because I'd never done them, but I wanted to do stones, but I couldn't relate to them, but I work with wood and some stuff. And so I mixed the two, and it's gorgeous.
Wow.
So, I'm so proud. I mean, that to me is as important as a really good cold reading I do on somebody, because I inspired somebody to see their world a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And use some of your techniques to create something different and totally unique. That's awesome.
There is a grid form of the Fibonacci. That's the thing that's like the little shell that goes in. That,
right.
And that's that ratio that everything makes. All the leaves and plants and all that stuff have it in them. And I was just so excited to see that. And after I finish taping with you, I'm going to be taping with a lady who was inspired by some of what I did, who got a grid for me, and she has now gone into making astrologic wheels that you can manipulate with crystals.
Oh,
her name's Ursula. We're gonna talk. We're gonna do about a half-hour show on her things and what they look like.
Wow.
So it's another way to expand using crystals. I'm working on something other than my egg, which everyone's seen, but this is, this week we're building all the rest of the eggs. This is the first one. That's the heart chakra.
Yeah, I got that one.
Yep, Danny's getting that one. And it comes with a wand and an allowance prayer and a way to use it. It explains how to use it. But we're going to have all of the other chakras and the tree of life done in the next 2 weeks.
Good.
So those will be ready to go out. And I really want people to, crystals prove to me to be so incredibly powerful for taking the energy I was using anyway and helping me focus it, and then helping me carry it along. Because when you empower something in a crystal, it just hums away in the corner. You don't have to sit with it.
Yeah.
Like your little salt lamp that's behind you. That just, it's just there, clear in the air and doing what it does.
Right. Yeah. Crystals, I mean, to me, and I'm just getting into crystals and learning about them, but I find that, they just hold on to the energy that you put into it. And it just, you can just,
it's an amplifier.
You can feel it. You can feel it almost pulsating.
Oh, we're going to end with one funny story, and then we're each going to pull a card, Danny.
Okay.
I did grid for a chamber of commerce. It's a small chamber of commerce here in the Dallas area. And the woman who was their financial director hired me to come and build them a grid. And the way I used to build grids when people were near me was I would take more stones than they needed. I'd have an idea in my mind how it should be mapped out, but then I would make them help me build the grid. They'd hold the stones and say, this is the one that goes and this is the one that doesn't.
Right.
So I get it. And I think I'm going to be doing this with her in her back office. I walk in and the president of the chamber's there and all the other chamber workers. And I'm like, And so I sit next to him. So he goes, how'd you get this? You got to realize I'm in Texas, guys. I go, how'd you get into this? And, we talked about it and he finally became convinced that I had my creds okay. And so he said, so what we're going to do? And I said, well, everyone's going to get a pile of stones and you're each going to get one kind of stone. And then I'll tell you how many you need to pick. And it's, like 1, 3, 5, whatever. And so I said, you're going to pick the pyrite because they wanted to bring in money and value and build their treasure.
Right.
So I lay out and there's like 10 pyrite stones in front of him. And he goes, what do I do? I said, you put it in your hand and you hold it, whichever's your non-dominant hand. You hold it and tell me if you feel anything. So he puts it in his hand and he's looking around like, this is nuts. And he's holding it. He's going, I don't feel anything. I said, then put that one down. So he goes through like 3 or 4 and everybody else is sort of sitting there with their little pile of stones going. And finally he looks at me and he picks one up and I saw the change in his face. And I said, what are you feeling? He says, it's buzzing. I said, okay, that's one we keep. So then everybody's in there getting their stones,
Yeah.
But, and this guy, and so then what I did is I affixed it there and they let it sit for a couple of days and then they could hang it on the wall.
Right.
That's one of the first ones I ever glued down. And I talked to her just before COVID, and I've talked to her since because she's a regular client of mine, but she told me that they made no money out of any of the grants they submitted before the grid. All the money they made was from the day of the grid up. And even the president of the chamber said, I don't know what that thing's doing, but apparently it works.
Yeah.
And, and he felt the buzz and other people said, yeah, you can feel it like feels warm. I said, it can feel warm. It can feel buzzy, or you can just know it's different from the other stones. I have a friend who is a carnelian. You can roll it in your hands and it's almost like it's purring. It's almost like the insides are moving.
Wow.
So what do you want to do now? You want to pull a card? You got a fancy deck?
Let's pull a card. Do I have a what deck?
Fancy dancy deck.
I do. I'm going to use my new fancy deck.
Uh-oh.
No. I always like when I'm pulling a card, I look at the bottom and it just gives me an idea. Here's the bottom card. This is like a free card, and it's the Dream Thief. It's so great. Refusal of the call. Refusal of the call. And this goes along with what we were talking about with people coming to life in their own terms about, becoming more aware of their intuitive gifts.
Right.
And people going, oh no, I don't have that. I can't do that. Just all the negative things all the blocks that we put up. And that's what that Dream Thief does. The refusal to call.
Yes.
Last card.
And I tell you, you're doing it this life, you're doing it in the next one, kid baby. So you better just do it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I am going to pull from my tarot deck a friend bought for me in Estonia.
Oh.
And it's in Estonian. And it is, and the bottom of that deck is the 7 of Cups, which is illusions and delusions. And
yes.
So we're going to see. What I got is the Page of Cups.
Oh.
And the pictures in here are almost medieval. I mean, the way the faces are on these cards. And
Uh-huh.
he's seeing it's spewing out. So it kind of goes along with your thing about dream thieves. You just have to let yourself go back in that childlike state
Yeah.
and look in the cup. And if it spills, don't freak and mop it up, let it spill. Let the things come out that need to come out. And it's obviously this kid's in a very pretty place. Estonia is a very beautiful country, as I understand it. I think that this is where we are. We're all children in this game. I may have been reading cards since I was 12, but every day I pick the cards up, it's a new adventure. It's a new day. It's a new way to see the world. And I've been very much the Page of Cups, just like I'm the son of was it son of wands? Swans?
Son of Cups.
Son of Cups, right? That's Swan card. Every day I wake up and I wake up with the positive notion of what the new day is. That has taken 2 years of meditating and stripping out and getting out of doing things the way I've always done them. So, and we've got a perfect time now to break out from doing the way we've always done it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So what did you get?
So this is my Shaman's Dream deck. It's a new one. And I got, I'm looking at this. I have to look at it a little closer. It's called Dragon's Hoard, Protecting the Future. And when I look at this, it looks like it's one of the things I noticed down here at the bottom is the amber. And that's what we started out with you showing us your amber rocks. So and there's a key here too. So
it's kind of like let go of the control. You've got to pick the keys up. You can't hold on to everything and pick the keys up.
Right. And there is certain, I'm going back to that amber, that there is there is value in the history of maybe that our past life readings that we were doing there. So when you're looking at that, there is value in that, but you have to go to the future. You always are protecting the future, which is why when you emailed me and said that, you can't hold on to the past, you have to go to the future. This card just caps it right there with it's always going forward, not hanging on to the bad of the past.
That's right, because we are always in a moving trajectory, and I understand the theory of time. All time happens at once. That's another thing that blows my brain apart. But I think on the soul journey on this planet, on this plane, in whether you're 3D or 5D, you're moving to the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was lovely. Thank you for coming to my garden. Next time I'll come visit your office.
Yes. Yeah, we have to wear a bathrobe.
I have one. It's white. It's pink and real fluffy.
Oh, yes. Awesome. Yes. So,
and this is my Woo Woo Crew t-shirt. This is my,
I know.
Those are my things for my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way to identify my folks, my peeps.
And it's so great because you have all this accoutrement on the Woo Woo Crew, and it's so awesome. It's so great.
Andrea got her Woo Woo Crew t-shirt 2 days ago.
Did she?
Yes.
Cool.
She had her mug for a while. Getting things into Canada is a bit more of a pain than you would think.
Yeah, they're backwards up there.
No, it's our customs office that screws everybody up.
I'm just getting people mad at me. That's all.
Okay. Well, she lives within spit and shot of where my parents were raised. And
really?
She vacationed in the town that I used to go to as a child when we visited Canada, a place called Kincardine. And she knew all about it. And I swear, I showed a picture of her to my daughter, and my daughter went, "Which one of my cousins is that?" I mean, she looks like my family. Of course, there's all these cute little Irish people up there. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much. Thank you for emailing me. And it was just lovely hooking up.
Okay. And I will get your video to you. Okay.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.